Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Vallen, and today we're covering Overwatch. The tanks. What I'm going to be doing in this video is covering each of these characters here along the bottom, giving a brief overview of their abilities, pluses and minuses, and how best to use them in combat. First up, D.Va. D.Va is kind of middle difficulty because she doesn't have a lot of offense in her normal armament. She's got a lot of defense though and survivability, thus why she's a tank. She will automatically eject from her mech if it loses all of its energy or health, and it is heavily armored. You have fusion cannons on there that you never have to reload, so you might as well just always shoot them. Then you've got a defense matrix. As if having massive amounts of armor isn't enough, you also have this little electromagnetic shield that you can pop in front of you that doesn't deflect bullets back at the enemy, but it will deflect them off of you. Then you've got your boosters that allow you to actually fly for a short amount of times in the direction that you are going. On top of that, you can self-destruct your mech willingly, and there are a few different ways that you can actually do this. So to start off, we have our regular shotguns. So you can see that they do quite a bit of damage, but from long range, it's not even going to do a thing. It barely even does anything at medium range. So once again, another shotgun style character that you want to get close up and personal. And you have infinite amounts of ammunition with this. There is no reload, so you don't have to worry about this. You can just constantly always shoot while you're running around the map. Now on top of that, you have a tremendous amount of armor. I don't know if you guys are seeing this. I'm going to zoom in on it, but it is sick how much armor you have, which characters like Tracer won't do as much good against you as much as a character with like big single shots, because armor reduces like a 5 hit point reduction or something like that. I can't remember, but it essentially just takes off a certain amount of damage on every shot. So one big shot will do more damage to you than a lot of little ones. Thus, a Tracer character will be pretty weak to you, at least in the most parts of living quite a ways. Now, on top of that, you have your left shift ability to fly in the direction that you face. And you have like about 2-3 seconds to fly, and then you have a 5-second cooldown, and it's just really, really strong. You can cancel it at any time you want. You cannot shoot while you're flying. You try to do so, and you'll end up just falling. Now, here is where the finesse part of D.Va comes in. One, I mean, already she doesn't do a lot of damage, even compared to the shotgun characters that we've run into before. It still takes like about 4 or 5 hits before she will kill them, but it's her ability to self-destruct her mech, and you don't want to kill yourself in the process. So if I press Q, my mech will start self-destructing, and I need to find cover. So if you get behind something, you should be safe. I recommend just getting behind something and trying to stay there, because if you go anywhere where you can actually see the mech when it blows up, you'll probably die. Unless you're a really, really good distance away. You're still going to take some damage from a huge radius. So enemy teams can get wiped out on defense points from that mech. Now, you'll notice that her ultimate is still shining, and she has a pistol now. My health is only 150 with no armor, so I am extremely, extremely weak. But I do have this, and I will have a reload now. There's no other special abilities besides using my ultimate again, which calls my mech back to me. And then you're back in the defensive manner of just tanking everything. Don't like it? Get out of there. You know, no big deal. It's really, really good. For those that want to explore, live a little bit longer, they keep on getting sniped or something, this is probably a really good one to mess around with. You're not going to be a big shooting character. You're going to be more finesse about how to use your special and when to use your special or your ultimate. Because if you use it at the wrong time, then you've just blown up your mech for no good reason, and then you are extremely weak. Now, I showed you one method of exploding your mech and using your ultimate. Another method is going to be using your flight mechanic and then exploding it. And I will show you like so. First I'll use left shift, then Q. And you can launch it out there so that you can be a lot safer and nowhere near these guys here, thus allowing you the opportunity to call down your mech again and get back into the battle, finish off any that didn't die in the initial blast, and making an opening for your team to bust in on that area. Just to give an idea of how much armor I have, you can see that I'm barely taking any damage from this guy. It just takes so long, and on top of that, I can put up my shields, which is fantastic. So you have a lot of survivability with this character. Your main enemies are going to be those that can either reflect your shots back at you, trap you in place, and just constantly hammer you to death so that you get focused, or those that do single huge amounts of damage, like snipers. Next up, Reinhardt. Reinhardt's relatively easy difficulty is pretty much a smash or protect, and that's about the extent of what he does. He comes with a hammer, only a melee weapon. He does have the ability to do limited ranged attacks, but he's kind of smashy and all defensy, because he comes with a barrier field that he can use to protect his team, as well as use it to just kind of give a good cover area. He has this Fire Strike ability, which also is his only real ranged attack that doesn't put him in danger, but he also has a charge, which is very dangerous to the enemy and himself sometimes. Earth Shatter will give him the ability to stop any and all foes in his path, and therefore destroy them with his other abilities, or give his fellow team the ability to do so for him. So to start off, he has this giant rocket hammer, which if you just hold the button down, you have infinite swings with it. You can see it has a certain range, and it actually has kind of a knock-around effect on the enemy. A few hits, and it'll take down your average target. You also have this left shift ability, which is not really ranged, but it's a gap closer, as well as a way of killing a target that you end up hitting. So, it's quite effective, but you do have to be quite careful with it, because if you don't aim properly, you can end up causing yourself your own death by falling off the map. So you're going to want to be very cautious about that. Now, there is one ranged attack he has, the E. And it shoots kind of a flame down probably about a medium range, so it's not too bad. So you can do a little bit of damage to targets. But he's most well known for his right-click ability, which is putting up a shield. Now, it is not going to actually end up pushing or affecting the enemy models. It only affects their guns. Let me get closer here. And you can see that with these guys, they're not able to shoot through the field, but it does take damage, as you can see at the bottom there. It takes damage over time and will eventually shatter. You'll then have to wait for it to replenish, and you can put it back up again. Or you can just pull it down and let it recharge by itself. On top of that, you can have your own friendly team shoot through your shield. They don't actually end up getting stopped by it, so you've really got some big benefits on it. Now, there are combos that you can do with this. His ultimate ability is Earth Shatter, and therefore it will end up knocking down any enemies in kind of a cone shape in front of him, for example. Then you can left shift and smash your targets in place and kill them. It's quite effective, especially in a group. You can end up knocking down an entire team, jumping in to do your damage, and then possibly using your shield to back up, protect yourself, or allow your team to fall in behind you and take the position that you're looking to do that with. So this tank, quite effective at dealing out a bit of damage, but you do have to be careful. If you miss your target there, or you've got too far of a distance to go, you could end up just getting shot along the entire way and dying, or as I showed you here, shooting right off the map. Though, perhaps you'll take someone with you? Next up, Roadhog. This is one of the easier characters to work with. He's fairly straightforward. He's all about short range damage and taking a whole bunch. Plus, he can heal himself. He has a shotgun ability plus kind of a medium range spread weapon that's not too bad. He essentially takes a bunch of scrap, puts it in his gun and shoots it, and then it explodes further away. So it's kind of like shooting your shotgun about 20 feet in front of you instead of exactly where you're at. Then you've got your heal ability here that you can do some serious healing, plus your chain hook, which is your main thing, what everybody knows you for. And then, of course, you've got your whole hog, which is where you just turn into a kind of a Gatling gun and go to town on the enemy. And here we have the standard shoot 'em, they die. You only get 4 shots in a gun, though. So if I shoot the medium, it's not quite as effective at close range as that one is, but if I shoot these guys at a medium range, it can have a more drastic effect. So you can see there. But it is much better at that range than shooting somebody. As you can see, that's quite a spread that goes on there. But at close range, you can almost always kill the target, provided that they don't have a lot of defenses going on. Now, you're most well known for your left shift ability. And then shooting them with your shotgun. It's very, very effective. Singling out a target, even if you miss the shot, the rest of your team might be able to capitalize on the hook that you end up getting on the character. But you should be aware it's not an infinite hook. So you're not going to be able to reach across the entire battlefield. It's more of a mid-range, just outside of short-range hook. And it's quite effective if you can land it. But you have to be careful because often you may end up pulling these guys close by, and if you're low on ammo or you miss your shot when you bring them in, they might be able to take you out as well. Now, on top of that, you have an E ability, which is the ability to heal. Of course, you have 600 health as it is, so you can take quite a beating already, though you have no armor. But if you use E, you then will heal up yourself, which is fantastic, so you don't have to rely on these, making you even more tankier. So you could even do this in the midst of a battle. Now, let's say that you end up wanting to destroy a larger group. Well, your shotgun's great for close range. You only get 4 shots, though. So what do? You use your ultimate ability. And you've got a nasty kickback. If I let go, I start shooting straight up. So you will have to compensate for that. But you can severely damage a large amount of the enemy in the area by using that ability. So overall, this guy is great for just kind of tanking damage because he can heal himself, he has a huge hit point pool, and he also can lend some serious damage to the friendly team by singling out characters and grabbing them, especially if you can grab those support heroes that are lending a whole bunch of healing to the enemy team. Next up, Winston. Winston is more of a medium difficulty, but that's more because he doesn't do a lot of damage. He's more about control. His Tesla cannon, while cool and can affect multiple targets at once, is very low damage over time. His barrier projector can actually give everybody kind of a Reinhardt-style shield in a dome. Therefore, they can shoot out of it and be protected while inside of it. It's quite effective and can last for a little bit. Then he's got his jump ability, which allows him quite a bit of maneuverability. And then, of course, his Primal Rage, where he just goes crazy and can leap, and when he punches enemies, will send them flying. So he can actually clear out an area and knock enemies back while doing some pretty substantial damage. So as you can see here, I've got my Tesla cannon aimed at these guys. Not even coming close. You've got about the range of a shotgun for this to even take effect. And then when it does, it doesn't do a lot of damage. It takes quite a bit over time. But the advantage of the Tesla cannon is that if you're close enough and the targets are kind of grouped together, you can affect multiple targets. So he is great for hitting a group all at once, therefore working well with other teammates. Specifically, the next one we'll be covering. Now, if you're under attack, you can actually use your left shift ability, which is to jump and get out of the way, or you can use it to close a gap as you prefer. Putting down your E ability drops the dome and protects you for a short time against incoming fire, and you're able to actually shoot through it at the enemy at the same time. Now, he may be a gorilla. Punching doesn't do any more than any other character's melee attack, but if you end up taking down enough of the enemy that you get your ultimate ability, then you'll be able to do a bit more. He goes into a rage, can jump, and whenever you land, you end up causing a large area of effect. You can punch enemies and throw them flying. It's not a very long-lasting ability, but you can use it to actually knock guys off of ledges. You can push them off of capture points that you need to get your group onto. It's just a really good thing. That, and, well, you're really scary coming in as a giant gorilla. A lot of people just end up kind of freaking out when they see him come in, but they don't realize that he doesn't do quite a lot of damage with his Tesla cannon. He can in a group, don't get me wrong, but he's a very specialized tank in my opinion. And last but not least of the defensive heroes, Zaria. She's one of my favorites, though she can be quite difficult for some players to get a hold of and master. I find her playstyle, personally, quite rewarding. Now, she has a passive energy. She damage blocked by her barriers that she can produce on herself and others will increase her particle cannon damage. So she's definitely going to want to be throwing out the shields on her group so that she can be more offensive in her damage. Her particle cannon, which has a short-range line that just kind of like, imagine a really long lightsaber where she can cut through enemies, but the damage it does is rather minor. But then she also has a grenade launcher that she can shoot energy grenades with at a relatively long distance. It doesn't bounce because it explodes on contact, but it's quite effective. Then she's got her projected barrier, where she can shoot a shield similar to Winston around a character, and it lasts with them for a certain amount of time until they take damage and so on. It will not replenish with the character if they get healed. You'll have to reapply it. And then, of course, she can give herself a barrier, as well as other people a barrier. And she's tanky to boot. And then, of course, my favorite ability of all the tanks, and that's the Graviton Surge. This one here, she launches a singularity into the midst of the enemy. It then does a bit of damage to them and pulls them all in together, allowing you to get some really good area of effect damage in on a huge group of the enemy team. So you can see here, she has her energy cannon. She can't quite reach that guy out there. She's got a decent range, though. You can see where it's actually hitting some of the stairway there. Now, she also has a grenade launcher, as I was saying. So she can actually end up kind of arcing this over to hit the enemies and doing some burst damage in an area. Of course, she gets closer, she can do the constant damage here. It's a little faster than the Tesla cannon from Winston, and in my opinion, much more effective because it does have kind of a short to medium range instead of his just short range. Now, if you use your plasma grenade, close range, it's still going to do some damage. It's more just so that you can actually hit something a little further away. I do like it. It's quite nice, and it makes people think that they're getting hit by something much bigger than it actually is. Now, she can actually give herself shields. Now, on top of that, she can also end up giving a friend a shield, and therefore they are less likely to die because, well, it's going to hit the shields first. In case people are curious, shields get taken down first, then armor, then life. So in this case, she is always going to want to be putting shields on herself, others, and then do more damage to the enemy. And with her plasma grenades or electric grenades, whatever you want to call them, that she shoots out, it does have kind of a toss on the enemy, so it will push them around a little bit. Not quite as heavy as Winston's punches will. And then, of course, we have her absolutely lovely ultimate ability, which I'll demonstrate here by shooting into the midst of this group, and it pulls them all together. Therefore, you can just launch a bunch of grenades, have your entire group shoot together all at the same location, possibly causing a lot of damage to the entire enemy team or a large portion of it. So, once again, another defensive, tanky character. She does have less health than most of the others, but she has the potential to double her own health with that shield option available to her, and which this also will end up increasing her damage. The more shields she has out on friendlies and herself, the more damage she's going to be doing to the targets. So that about does it for the tanky heroes here today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know that I did, and just make sure that you end up charging in front of your group if at all possible. I mean, not all the tank characters are designed for the front field. I think Zaria is probably meant more for the middle line, sometimes the front, because of her abilities and how she can end up giving the shields to others. But just make sure that you're able to work with your group, because a tank on their own is not nearly as effective as being with your group, and you are always key to taking and holding positions. So, until next time folks, see ya.